we started using the 80% approach with our team. And I think it's really, it's not just us implementing anymore. The team has really grasped this 80% approach. And as I was thinking, like, what could I offer the group? I think kind of letting everybody know about the 80% approach will kind of help with all your new initiatives, because especially when you're new here, it's hard. Like, I saw all this new stuff. What do I want to do? I can't do it by myself. How do I get my team on board to help me start implementing? So the best thing we've seen is the 80% approach. And so before we started doing 80% approach, our team used to always be terrified. Like, Jimmy's at CG. What is he going to completely railroad us with the day he gets off the plane? And so I was in a really bad habit of, like, I'd come, Susie could see me in the room getting excited. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna do all this stuff. Then I'd come home and then I'd seagull shit all over the team, be like, team, we're gonna do this. I'd be like, I'm out of here, gonna go do some more visionary stuff, see you later. And I'd leave the meeting and the team would be like, what the hell was that? So I discovered the 80% approach. So has anybody here heard of Dan Sullivan? And so he infused, he influenced EOS a lot. We are been EOS pure for a long time. So there's a lot of Dan Sullivan EOS, which everybody in here is familiar with EOS. So a lot of Dan Sullivan's ideas are intertwined. Would you agree with that, Gary? Okay. One of Dan Sullivan's favorite tools is to do a Colby personality test. How many of you guys have done this? So this this helped me really understand myself, but right here I'm a 10 quick start, so I need absolute zero information to do anything. And so if it looks cool, it feels good in my gut, we're going. And so I didn't know this about myself. Like, I used to be an Army Ranger, and they were like, hey, Jimmy, you want to go jump out of planes? I'm like, absolutely, dude, let's go do it. Didn't think about the consequences, didn't think about anything. But then I'd be in the plane, they'd open up the door to jump, and I'm like, wow, I should have thought about this before but I'm already here, I might as well jump. And so, especially when I first started in business, that's what business felt like that to me. So I've really tried to grow past that. So I just bring that up to say, I'm not a detail guy, and so I need a team of detail people because I am useless. For example, when I present,
hold on.
Yeah.
Say that slower one more time.
When it comes to details, I am useless.
No, not that part.
Oh, which part?
The part about you need detailed people around
I need detailed people around me to, I think this 10 is really cool, but the 4, 3, and 2 is a major weakness. And we got to build a team to help with those weaknesses. But for example, details. When I present, I generally like to have pants on. And generally I like to wear jeans. And so I don't forget my jeans. I generally wear them on the plane. But I didn't wear them on the plane last night, so I forgot my presenting pants. Details are just not my strength.
Well, at least you wear pants. I mean,
yeah. But you get your comfortable pair of jeans that you're used to presenting in, it's comfortable. So Sullivan and this book, it's a little pamphlet. So we took a deal from the Wolfswinkles and we started doing book reviews with our leadership team. And when I first handed this to Susie, she's like, this isn't a book, it's a pamphlet. So this is a very powerful idea in about a book that takes 20 minutes to read, which is another reason I think our team liked it so much, because it's easy. But here's the way I see it for myself, is there's 3 main challenges to implement any new idea. And there's 3 main challenges to learning something at CG and going home and executing it. And it's not necessarily the people in this room, it's our teams. It's lack of confidence, procrastination, and lack of teamwork. So I think this 80% approach eliminates all of those things. And when I start teaching this to the team, I start talking about the Pareto Principle. So most people in sales, most people in this room, everybody's here familiar with the Pareto Principle, right? So 80%, generally 80% of consequences come from 20% of the causes. And a really good team members who are really detail-oriented and really task-oriented, sometimes they need to be coached up a little bit that not all tasks are equal, and that they need to find the 20% of tasks going to lead to 80% of the results. So I just kind of talk to them about, hey, do you understand the Pareto Principle? 20% of the planets have 80% of the mass. 20% of the NFL players make 80% of the salaries. And I just try to convince them that the 80% is everywhere. And basically the point is, not every task is equal, not everything's equal, and then nothing really happens at 100%. And then I tell them, like, hey, some people get mad about the Pareto Principle, and then some people just accept it and let it work for them. And so, like, our team, we need to let it work for us. And so here's the basic analysis, is everything, like perfectionists want to get things done at 100%. Me, I just want to do this first 80. And then I don't worry about somebody else will do the 80% of the next 20. He'll do 80% of the next 20. He'll do 80% of the next 20. He'll do 80% of the next 20. And so as you move up into the top right corner, that's how you start getting to perfect. That's how you start getting closer to being expert in perfection. But the first 90 days on a new initiative, you're just trying to get that first big block. And that's where most of the brain damage is, and that's where most of the time is. So I've found with our team, if we get them over that first hump to start, things start moving faster. I basically just tell them, like, why are there 5 versions of Microsoft? Why are there 10 iPhones? Because the first versions were good enough to make money. That's all we're trying to do in the next quarter. And then one of my favorite quotes from Principles is from Ray Dalio. This is something I always tell my team. I live by this. But if you don't think that the year-ago version of yourself was a dumbass, you're not growing fast enough. And so this is straight from Dan Sullivan. Like, the 2 dangers are perfectionism and procrastination and perfectionism. And so, like, our best team members are perfectionists, and perfectionism can lead to procrastination and lead to not implementing quickly and efficiently. So I just show them, hey, perfectionism is as a minimum requirement. You're looking for perfection in all situations in life. It's not going to happen. It's not real. And then procrastination results from refusal to take action until an ideal result's guaranteed in every situation. And I just show it to them, like, hey, this is not possible. And I love this graphic here, how your increased confidence is always fighting against your perfectionism and your procrastination. That's just more perfectionists live in a world of all-encompassing world of shoulds, and generally procrastination and perfectionism are like a negative feedback cycle that feed on each other. So I'm going to go through the next 10 minutes. I'm going to go through the 6 advantages of the 80% solution. So who here has written a book? Anybody? Your first draft of your book, no matter how long it took you, would you say you were about 80% done? And so Dan Sullivan's point is, like, would you agree with that too, Gary? Like, no matter how long you take to do your first draft of anything, it's going to be an 80% solution until you get engaged. And so confidence comes from fast engagement and completion. So the advantage of being a quick start is I get a rapid feedback mechanism because I'll implement very quickly, and the market reality will tell me whether I'm on the right track or not. So I always encourage our team members to, whatever you're trying to do, just get engaged as fast as possible. Because as soon as we're engaged, our understanding of what is involved and needed expands, deepens, and transforms. But none of the new learning can take place until engagement starts. So I'm like, guys, we can IDS this to death. We can stay in meetings all day long. But until the rubber hits the road, we're not truly going to learn what we need to do to implement. And then preparation without engagement is worthless. So I'll set a timer, be like, we're going to discuss this for this amount of time, and then we're going to go execute, and then we're going to come back at next week's EOS, and we're going to learn. And we're just going to feedback on what we've learned. And I love this quote: since procrastination and preparation without engagement are counterproductive and worthless, your advantage lies in immediately engaging with and completing the project, reaching your first 80% as quickly as possible. And so, like, for the perfectionists on my team, I just, like, you can see the relief in their face. I'm like, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for you to get to your first 80% as fast as possible. And like that quote right there has got, for the perfectionists on the team, has really got a lot. Their performance has really improved from that one line. 80% is good enough 80% of the time. A couple examples I have of that. We've raised a lot of private money to do what we do. And the way I started raising private money is I didn't take a huge course. I didn't study. I didn't go to law school. I bought a course from Ron LeGrand that had his note and deed of trust. I changed the address, I changed the names, and then I sent it to the private lenders. And then they wrote back to me what was wrong with it and corrected it themselves. So each time I got a loan, my documents got better, and we kept getting the private money. Probably my best CG story about how 80% is good enough 80% of the time. Frank Cava's lending thing from, what is that, 2 years ago, Leon?
Yeah, it was multiple buckets on bankability is what it was called.
And
being
so
bankable.
Being bankable. So Frank, being the great human being he is, gave everybody the PowerPoint. I took the PowerPoint, changed the addresses, changed the names, changed the pictures, but I forgot to take Frank's logo out of the entire presentation.
And it still worked.
Didn't matter. Got a $2 million loan. 80% is good enough 80% of the time.
Remember what I said earlier. There's no one that implements better. He takes a PowerPoint, he makes it his own without making it his own and still gets money. The banker, I'm sure, was like, who the hell is Kava Companies? But still he gets money.
But the banker wasn't paying attention to that. Like, he just wanted to see a deal. And then there's 20% of the time where you get smoked for being that sloppy. And those happen too. But it's like, I can handle it 20% of the time. It's not that big a deal.
Gary and myself and Jason and Frank, I think we've said this a million times. You know, done is better than perfect. And if you can find someone that does 80% of what you do, that's pretty darn good.
Then this is, I love all these advantages, but this is where the teamwork starts. This is where the team starts to gel. They start to trust each other and rely on each other and start to amplify and explain each other's strengths. But you need to recognize 80% of the, which 80% of the project people should handle. They have to get to their unique ability. Who here is familiar with the Delegate and Elevate tool? So we do our 5-5-5s every quarter, and like your team members will love you if you start having them fill this out, because I don't believe people hate their jobs. I think people hate spending most of their time and they don't like and not good. And so they'll do, when people show up on their 5-5-5s with me, we have this filled out, and then I don't promise them, hey, you'll never do anything in this bottom right quadrant, but I'm definitely going to take a look at it, and we're definitely going to try to get that off your plate so you can spend time right here. And so we can get closer and closer to your unique ability. And then, like, our team's getting pretty good of, like, this big block, generally, it's me and Susie. Generally, I do like 30%, and then Susie brings in the next 50. Then our leadership team does the next 80, and now they're good enough for those upright corners. They're like, give this to this team member. They're great at that. Give that to this team member. They're great at that. So now they're taking it and running it on their own. But we've got it's a lot of fun to work when you aren't guaranteeing all your team members, we're going to try to get you in this top left corner, but we're going to move that way. And like personally, that's what makes work fun for me. I love it. And then I think they love the process as well. And then so recognize, same thing. We're just trying to find everybody's unique ability and put them that part of the process. Advantage 5 is the power of getting things done as quickly as possible. So speed increases engagement, confidence, learning, growth, and most importantly, teamwork. So I made the point to the team that, hey guys, if you're like Tommy Boy and you got your little biscuit that you're holding to yourself, like you're hurting the team. And eventually you're going to hold that biscuit so tight, you're going to crush it. So I'm like, the way, you know what I'm talking about, which reference, right? Yeah. Or, you could do Lord of the Rings, my precious. I'm like, your part of the 80% is not your precious. Get it done, get it out, get it to the team, because the team can help make it better. So this principle is why at least our team, I feel, has really started to gel and rely on each other. And they don't procrastinate. And if I see them procrastinate, I'm able to like coax them out of it because they understand this principle. But there's no advantage to waiting when you have a team. The power of delegating, the second 80%, as early and often as possible. Every contribution that you make to a team effort, do it as quickly as possible so the next steps can be delegated to others as quickly and as effectively as possible. You like that, Glenn? You like to delegate, right? Advantage 7, Eliminating procrastination saves times, improves talent, and transform emotions. That's a huge one. This is why work can be fun again. So one of the requirements to being in the zone is a rapid feedback mechanism. The 80% approach gives that rapid feedback mechanism because the team is now saying, this works, this doesn't work, let's try this, let's not try that. And so by eliminating procrastination, especially in teamwork, we help others save time, improve their talents, and transform their negative emotion, because there's nothing more negative than being in a vicious procrastination and perfection cycle. 80%ers will always enjoyably and profitably outperform perfectionists. You know, perfectionists aren't a lot of fun to be around. People who can laugh at themselves and laugh at their mistakes are a lot more fun to be around and attract better talent. And so this pamphlet, that's the link. If you just Google 80% Solution or 80% Approach by Dan Sullivan, you can download the PDF and share it with your team. That's all I got.
So I know you didn't do a presentation and not ask for help with something.
I'll be honest with you, like we're still chewing on everything from last quarter.
Yeah.
We're good.
So let's, have a takeaway here real quick. When we discussed this morning about moving on to the next thing, we realize as an organization that sometimes moving ahead before you perfect something, not necessarily to perfection, 80%, you're doing a disservice to your business, and we're doing a disservice to you. And so hearing that, I want everyone to ask for help, obviously, but at the same time, to know that you're still chewing on things that you learned from the last quarter. And the good news is you guys are going to get a lot from the next 2 days of presentations as well of what Eric has done. So I commend you for that. And obviously, I'll know you reach out when you need something. So anyone have any questions for Jimmy before he goes? He's got a minute. Any questions? Anything in the chat or virtual room?
Jimmy, I got a quick question for you. Tim Hardman here. Great job on the presentation. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to get that book and go through it. When you mentioned the Delegate and Elevate worksheet, is that a part of that book, or did that come from somewhere else?
No, that's if you just Google Delegate and Elevate, that's on EOS's website. But yeah, that's an EOS, one of their core tools.
Perfect.
Looks like Lance's hand is up in the virtual room. Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, great presentation. Thank you so much. And I'm a big Dan Sullivan guy myself. I'm one of his clients, and I'll tell everyone there's a resource. This is his most popular book right now. Is Who Not How, and it's all about quit thinking about how. It's what the point you're just making. You'll find the right who's and surround yourself with the right who's. That Colby profile is a big part of it. But that is, if you make that the heart of your whole management strategy, who not out, ask that question, who, it's a game changer. So
thank you for that, Lance. That's great. This is really cool, right? You've got a room full of resources, and then you have a virtual room full of resources as well. Thank you for that. Anything else in the virtual room for?
Yeah, Jimmy, hey man, great presentation, bro. We go back a ways, work together. We also do similar to the 80-20, but one thing that is to be discussed is prioritizing what those 80-20 is, because like you said, whenever you get smoked on that 20, if you prioritize it, you really won't. So just a comment there. I do a thing in consulting with clients called the $10,000 hour activity, where basically there's $10,000 an hour, $1,000 an hour, $100 an hour, and $10 an hour activity. And for a whole week, every hour when you get up to when you go to bed at night, any business related activity, you actually think about having to price that what you did in that hour. And it's really incredible. You would obviously probably think about it too, but it's really incredible. People don't recognize that they spend so much time on the $10 hour and $100 hour activities versus the $10,000 and $1,000 hour activity, which is similar to what you're talking about with 80-20. So yeah, similar to what you talked about, but just prioritizing really makes a big difference too.
Awesome, Corey. Thank you for that. Yes, Jimmy, go ahead.
Leon, I got to thank you guys, because like our team, all the content you guys are putting out,
Thank you.
like our all of our team leaders have like a weekly CG assignment to
Yeah.
watch what you guys are doing. So thank you for that. It's
You're
really
welcome.
empowering them as well.
So humbled to serve. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.